Welcome to Awake and Activate. On this episode of Awake and Activate, I died and came back. What life is like now. Today we're going to talk about near-death experiences, death experiences. What happens to the soul? An actual image that was captured at an accident of somebody's light body leaving their avatar, and an article to go along with that, and the activation that once you touch that other side that you come back with. So there's nothing to fear when you understand clearly what you are, who you are, and what you are able to do. So let's get into this and share with this article and these images to help you understand that if something happened and all of a sudden one day everything is just turned on for you, how did that happen? Did you possibly have a death experience in your sleep and then wake up the next morning actually touching the other side and bringing back with you some amazing gifts that were dormant in you? Actually, not truly dormant. You just weren't aware that you had them. But you touched the other side and everything just went click, 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 click. And then you're fully awakened. You can't quite understand what the heck just happened to you, but over time, you do get the help that you need from the other side, possibly, to get a better understanding on why you're clairsentient, clairaudio, where you can also have dreams that are prophetic. You can sense and see behind if somebody is holding up a mask. You can sense their authenticity, the gifts and abilities that are within each and every single one of us, that we are now coming into a time of remembrance. But why you could possibly be more awakened and aware and a quicker start on you. Could it be that you touched the other side and have come back and lived to tell about it? Let's get into it. I'm inserting the Fair Use Act because we'll be using some publications and articles which will be listed down in the description box for you to look into yourself and do your own research. It's called the Fair Use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teachings, and parody.
Proof of an afterlife? Man's spirit caught on camera leaving his body after road crash. Paranormal investigators are hailing this amazing image, snapped at the scene of a fatal road crash, as proof of an afterlife. By John Austin. Published, 1639, Friday, July 15, 2016. Updated, 1732, Friday, July 15, 2016. 0. YouTube. The alleged spirit ringed as it rose from the crash victim. Claims have been made the picture, at the scene of an accident involving a motorcycle, shows the wispy spirit of a person leaving the body as emergency services work at the scene. The picture was taken by a passing motorist, according to Saul Vasquez, who said his dad snapped the accident scene as he passed it on Tuesday. The Kentucky photographer posted it online, saying, "I took this picture just few minutes ago from the cab of my truck. It was an accident between Campton and Stanton on the service road just off of the Mountain Parkway. Zoom in and pay attention to the shadow just off the top of the state trooper hat."
I've given you a close-up image that this gentleman in the truck took as he was passing by the accident. Realize that this individual in this accident was not pronounced dead until at the hospital, which goes along with many testimonials, including mine, that I was pulled from the body and felt no pain until I made the decision to come back. If you look, let me point right there, right there. You can see for yourself. This is an actual photo that somebody took, and I wanted to insert it in a blown up version so you can see for yourself what is being shown in the article. And also, you were able to see that there were several other accompanying articles. Well, you'll see that in the next half, that you can also look into yourself to get more information on that.
Some people have suggested it is proof of the afterlife, while others believe it is an optical illness. Related articles. Phantom girl filmed inside abandoned plague hospital. Proof of ghosts. Man catches spirit on camera in his home at Same. According to CNN, the man involved in the motorbike crash was later pronounced dead in hospital. Scott C. Waring, of UFOSightingsDaily.com, who takes an interest in the paranormal, said, "This is absolutely mind-boggling. When an accident happened, someone took a photo and realized a spirit was moving upward from the dead body. Although this is not a UFO or alien, it is paranormal and very exciting news indeed. This confirms that humans will not just disappear when we die, but our energy stays intact and lifts away from the shell of a body to go somewhere awesome."
As many of you are aware, I was in an accident when I was 15 years old. I actually have done a video on my near-death experience. I will link that also in the description box, since it's been quite a while and many videos have been made since then, so I'll to try to make it easier for you to find it. But when I was hit by the vehicle, as I just mentioned, I did not feel any pain. I was out of my body and I went someplace different. I was sitting on a log under a tree, and a calmly gentle, kind man approached me and sat down and talked with me. He showed me several different, it's really hard to describe it, but it was like different lifelines or timelines. And I was told I did not have to come back. But as he was showing me, and it was like watching somebody's life within a split second, and then seeing another outcome or probability or possibility of this individual's life, and then another possibility or probability of this person's life. And each of the ones that I was shown, with me not going back, was too much for my heart to bear. And as soon as my heart connected, then I was back into my body, and oh my gosh, the pain was horrible. Anyways, so I was on the other side, giving that high five, and I came back. Now, in 2001, I was bit by a spider. And when I was bit by this spider, I actually got what they would call a staph infection, blood poisoning. We call it a dirty mouth spider. And it bit me on my finger, and by the next day, I had a bright red streak going all the way up, which it was going up the bloodstream that would go directly into my heart. So the spider bit me on the correct hand of where your blood goes in, gets filtered, and then goes out and circulates all the way through your body. So I didn't really have much time. I didn't really put it together, but also in 2001 was when I started having out-of-body experiences and prophetic dreams. When I went to the doctor to get checked out for that, they gave me medication telling me I was having night terrors. And, I had to work and function. I was taking care of 2 children. What else was I to do? And since I believed the medication would work, it did for a certain amount of time. Now, as you can see, this person is on an operating table or in possibly a medical type facility, as you see doctors and everything working on this individual as she is leaving her body. Now, you leave before the pain. And I want to express that to you. And I also want to express to you that this is not it. There is so much more. We're here like a blink of an eye when you consider what we are and who we are and how God Almighty shares the essence with us that animates our very being, creating us into being, and therefore also with giving us so many gifts and abilities. But it does seem that people who have touched the other side, had a near death experience, or what I would call a death experience, some abilities seem to come back awakened or activated in them. Now, this does not mean that everybody does not have these very abilities within them. This just means that by touching the other side, it's almost like having a cleansing process. You realize everything is forgiven, everything that you think that you have done wrong or everything that you've heard, is untrue. We all are going to meet God and we are all going to a divine place. The divine resides within us. We are God's children. And so we come back and the gifts are unlocked or activated within us. This kind of gives us an advantage to help others that do not have to go through a near-death experience or a horrible illness or anything like that, to help awaken and align and start working with what is already in them that is laying dormant because they don't understand who and what they are. So let's get to the next article that talks about near-death experiences and death experiences. And hopefully that article will help give more understanding on what we are and what we're able to do. Okay, I'm going to try and read this one aloud since my read aloud is giving me a hard time. These 5 people died and claimed to come back to life. Here's what they experienced. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is a very likely the single best invention of life. It's life-changing agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Quote by Steve Jobs. There are countless records and research cases of past life experience that suggest the possibility of life after death in nearly every single documented case of reincarnation. There was found to be a variable period of time between persons' death to their next reincarnation. So what happens when we die? There are several planes of existence in this potential limbo. Well, when we die, our physical body remains here on Earth, while our life energy is released into the universe, basically through the cease to exist. Our consciousness continues. The following 5 people have experienced death and life after death. They discuss what they saw, felt, and heard during the time between this reality and the next. Number 1, dead man walks. Was undergoing chemotherapy at the age of 15. He was afflicted with sepsis, and his colon became infected. He was hemorrhaging. Blood was rushed to the hospital, where he slipped in and out of this world several times. He explains his life after death experience like hitting the snooze button on the alarm. So, if you want to know what it's like to be that close to death, it's tempting. It's like wanting to hit the snooze button on the alarm at 7 a.m. And maybe you do hit it once or twice, but then you remember that you have work or school and that sleep can wait because you've still got shit to do. That's in the article. Number 2, Shalenda 7 died temporarily from a motorcycle accident after hitting a light pole while traveling at 50 miles an hour. He passed into a state of darkness. He says he woke up because someone was yelling at him. When I opened my eyes, I saw my brother squatting at the pavement next to me. This was odd because my brother has been dead from an OD for several years. I couldn't really gather the presence of mind to speak, so I just looked at him. Number 3, at the age of 5, son of Davor, nearly died in a swimming pool when his mother thought he was just playing around. He now has shimmering visions because of the experience. There was nothing, these are his words now, there was nothing between that moment and throwing up the water after he pulled me out of the pool. Though I can remember with absolute clarity how the water made everything shimmer as I was looking up, and sometimes I see that swimming shimmer as I'm walking around outside or if the light is really bright. So it sounds like he took something home with him when he woke back up here. Number 4, 7 stories up. Needed eye surgery at the age of 7 due to complications with asthma and the anesthetic. The surgery caused his heart to stop and he died. This left him with a rather bleak view of death. This is why I like to use the reader. I'm so sorry. Letters jumble for me ever since that accident when I was 15. So reading is a little more difficult. So I apologize and thank you for being patient with me. It also isn't some magical experience. These are his words. You just keep sleeping, except sometimes you can wake up from it like I did, and sometimes you can't. It is sad, though, because it's nothing. Life is smelly and loud and busy and interesting and fun and colorful, and death is absolutely nothingness. Number 5, minus the Lala. These people and their pseudonames. Okay, had no pulse for 10 minutes and was dead from heart failure. Eventually, the room went black and a feeling of peace came over me, like I was going to sleep, and I didn't see anything good or bad, just emptiness. As we just went through listening to those 5 testimonials, you know, a couple of them, well, one in particular, where it said that there was just nothingness. Well, sometimes people mistake a near death experience with being knocked out or unconscious for a short period of time. That would be where you would see like nothingness, or there's a lot of people that um, can't remember their dreams. So when they go to sleep, they think it's just nothingness. But as time progresses, you see that you're actually going into dream state or out of body and exploring this, universe, multiverse, going outside of time, seeing things in the future. Many things are going on. But it's all in a matter when you first wake up if you can remember what's going on. So think of that one when we were reading it as something like that. But then also there are where people talk about NPCs, non-participant players, that are just here, to enhance our experience. So that's something to also think about. I've taken nothing off the table. But what I'm this video is about is near death experience, and the abilities that get activated within us when we come back. When we touch that other side, what happens? Well, now let's go and skip forward to 2012. I was actually having heart problems and was having all kinds of tests done. I was extremely overweight because of the car accident that I was in when I was hit by the drunk driver, where my neck was broken and my back was broken. I received a lot of steroid injections. I didn't do well with the steroids, and I actually cannot take them. When I had that spider bite, I had to take steroids at that time too, which steroids, it's one of those things that my body does not respond to well. So, with that said, I gained a ton of weight when they were giving me all of these injections, some directly into my spine, some into, the tuchus. Right after the accident, I was getting monthly shots of heavy doses of steroids or cortisone to try to bring the inflammation down from the injuries that I sustained. In the meantime, I gained a lot of weight from lack of mobility with the steroids and overeating because of the steroids. So, 2012 is what we were talking about now. I was having heart problems, major heart problems. The doctor said that I needed to lose weight. Well, weight just started melting off of me like crazy. And I was having the dreams and visions already. And I would have a dream. I would wake up. I would tell my husband about it, and we would walk right through it. And pretty much it was 100% track record on what I was seeing. And then it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a day or 2 days, or a year, or like with the Donald Trump thing was 2 years. Well, then I had the dream that terrified me, and it really shook me, and I didn't want to believe that that was possible, but I had this track record, and my husband was there. He was verifying it. He was walking through them with me. So we were terrified that this dream was going to come to pass. Well, it took 7 years, but it did come to pass. But one of the things that happens is I go to a place that I call it It's No Place, and then I drop down and I see these events. And, I don't have the concept of time unless we're completely in a futurized setting, or I'm in a futurized setting. you know, or location, because there's metropolitan areas everywhere, there's desert areas everywhere, there's forest areas everywhere. So, you know, I don't have the navigation now. I'm learning to look to see if I can get any discernible areas of location or time. But a lot of times those things are just out of view or not clear enough to look at. So, you know, remote viewing is something that, you know, is done, and they try even as hard as they do with the training they have. They have a hard time trying to figure out the location that they're at and what date they're looking at. But, you know, they're getting better with it. Okay, now we're looking at a gentleman who is going into an out of body experience. He is obviously aware, as he is looking back at his body laying there, that he is coming up out of his body. And when you go through the understanding of coming out of your body and going on what I call adventures, well, you are aware that your body is laying there in bed. And one thing that I do want to, you know, express and stress, you know, I can't stress this enough to you, that if somebody is to walk into your room and you are having an OBE, out of body experience, you will hear somebody come into the room. You are not left defenseless. You are still aware of your surroundings, even though you are off observing or viewing an event that, you know, could come to pass, or learning. I went through a period of a learning experience of going out of my body and, you know, exiting through windows, and realizing that in that form, in that light body form, that I could go through walls, through the ceiling. I didn't need to turn the door handle. And one of the things that, you know, I do recommend is that you find a go-to place so you know if you're in the body or out of the body, because it is that real and that tangible, and what you're able to see and observe, you feel as if you are a participant in it. I go to a light switch. The light switch tells me that if I can, I got something bothering me. I hope it's not a mosquito. I got bit already once, so sorry about that. I go to the light switch, and if I cannot turn that light switch on, or when I hit that switch and the light doesn't come on, well, I'm still out on an adventure. There's something that I need to observe. So, a lot of times when I'm out and having these experiences, I am more consumed with the observation that I am supposed to be looking at. So, you know, looking for the date or like a newspaper or markers is a little more difficult, because I'm there like to serve a purpose. I'm there to observe something in order to, you know something that is to come to pass. This could be for somebody that is close to me, a message to relate to a good friend, or possibly something to broadcast out to you guys on the internet, so that way we can know either, you know, where we're at and where we're at with this awakening process and the new earth, which I have seen, and I'm going to do my darndest to show you guys a video of that. I am working on it. It's a work in progress. So you know, I'm going to do to the best of my ability of this beautiful place. But let me stick with the topic at hand, which is near-death experience, what happens, you know, when we die, and what happens when we die and we come back, which would be a death experience. So This man is obviously going out and going on an adventure because he's looking back at his body, acknowledging that he is there sleeping. Okay, now what I want to get into next is it's called an Ellie. Um, and if you don't know what an Ellie is, I'm going to play an article on Ellie so you'll get an understanding of what that is and what could have been a catalyst for the huge wake up that happened from 2015 to 2016 that has catapulted us to another level of awareness, um, adding to the numbers in such a huge way, and the purpose that this could be why, we are being prepared. Uh, so, because as I've mentioned over and over again, everything that is awakening with us by going over to the other side, even if it's just for a high five and coming back, well, um, it's waking up things that are dormant within us, which means that it's dormant within everybody. Everybody has these. And as they start to unlock in other people, then we need to have the people that have the understanding and the compassion to help others to enhance and get through what they need to learn. If there's any, questions, we can help field those as an equal with an understanding of equality to bring everybody along this process, this journey, this refinement period. So now, let me show you. Hopefully, I won't have to read this time. What the Ellie, what an Ellie is, and see what you guys think.
January 4th, 2015. ELE, Extinction Level Event, coming. Asteroid Warning, Government Preps Underground Bases and Extinction Protocol. By Susan Duclos. We know a lot but we don't know everything, we like to think we know everything but we don't. Direct quote told to Steve Quayle by a high-ranking intelligence professional before his death. There are a number of events occurring right now, from planetary alignments similar to 2004 when a massive 9.2/9.3 earthquake struck the Indian Ocean, followed by a tsunami, killing over 200,000 people, to a NASA warning of scores of giant asteroids set to hurtle past Earth within the month, to extremely high-level military sources leaking information about massive preparations being made by the US government, including data on 500 to 50 truck caravans per day/week in a mad dash to stock up underground bases for some type of upcoming event, food shortages being reported in smaller communities across the country, and finally the mystery surrounding the owner of the Extinction Protocol website. An email was forwarded to all news pipeline concerning the mysterious disappearance of the Extinction Protocol website owner, Alvin Conway, shown below. Reference article of 30+ days of fire in the heavens. So true. Before he disappeared about early November 2014, Alvin Conway, who manages the Extinction Protocol, posted earlier in the year that NASA and other people who monitor space activity said that our solar system was moving into a dense portion of the galaxy and the chances of Earth being hit were much higher than ever before. Alvin Conway has not been heard from in over 2 months on his Facebook site and his 2 websites. The world is wondering. Also, 01.05.15 same planetary alignment that occurred in 2004 and we had the 9.2 earthquake and the tidal waves that killed over 200,000. We must pray thanks. Due to the nature of the concerns and in connection with the prior assertion of Earth being hit, we decided to deal with the Conway issue first. It is true his Facebook page was not updated for 2 months, as well as the last article written on the Extinction Protocol website being on November 13, 2014. It is also true that his readers expressed some serious concerns on his personal Facebook page, but on January 1, 2014, After nearly 3 months of going quiet, a photo was shared under his name on his personal page. One of his readers also claimed on his Extinction Protocol Facebook page to have heard from Conway on December 28, 2014, stating, "For anyone who is reading this page, I have heard from Alvin. He wrote life changes. I've been traveling, and working on other extensive projects. So he is okay." ANP has sent Conway an email as well as a Facebook request to please contact us. On to the other issues, such as the question of whether we are facing an E.L.E. extinction level event, and whether said event is the reason behind the massive preparations being made by the U.S. government by stocking up deep underground military bases across the U.S., as pointed out by ANP co-owner Live Free or Die. The article discussing NASA's revelations of incoming asteroids uses terms such as alter life as we know it, destroying cities and knocking out transport and communication networks, real showstoppers and civilization stopper, which all appear to qualify as an ELE. The information on the rushed last-minute stocking of underground bases, many detailed at the Bob Fletcher Investigations website here, came from a very high-level military source, shared with The Hawk by Greg Evenson, discussed here, and confirmed to me by another source just this morning who spoke to Evenson to verify. There have been an uncanny number of scientists and researchers who have mysteriously died over the last 15 years, extensively documented by Steve Quayle from 1994 to 2003 here and from 2004 to 2014 here, many of which were astronomers, as is addressed in an ANP article here, asking is this why the astronomers died, bringing up the obvious question of what they knew, what they were studying, and if the deaths are coincidental or if they discovered something that caused their early demise. It is also noteworthy that in late 2013, multiple media outlets reported that the UN was hearing evidence on why a program needed to be created to battle asteroids, with astronauts stating that Earth needed to be defended from what was coming from space. Furthermore, in December 2014, just weeks ago, it was reported that ESA and National Disaster Response Offices recently rehearsed how to react if a threatening space rock is ever discovered to be on a collision course with Earth. This was their first asteroid mapped exercise ever. In a case of reality possibly mimicking Hollywood fiction, we are reminded by a reader of the 1998 movie Deep Impact, where it states unless a comet can be destroyed before colliding with Earth, only those allowed into shelters will survive. Which people will survive? If the recent NASA revelation and the information on the underground base preparations is connected, then it would seem the answer to which people will survive would be the elite, certain members of the political structure and military, but what about the everyday citizen just going about their business? Is there an ELE coming? Would the government even tell us if it were, or would they be too concerned about creating a panic among the people while they are rushing to guarantee their own survival?
Now, what I want you to notice is the date. The dates of the article and when this was actually observed. Now, an ELE event, extinction level event, in 2014 was a pretty serious thing that could come about. Now, today there is a great deal of effort to discredit NASA. Also, let's think about the timing. When did we start talking about the Mandela effect? When did flat Earth? When did we all decide that we're under a firmament and no longer a planet? These are things we need to think about. Did something happen and we got moved? As I can tell you from my own testimony, that I was pulled from my body when I was having the discussion whether to come back or not. Since there was such a huge amount of wake up with the changes and everything that was noticed and noticeable to where we're at now, to where we were before, it does seem that we have been moved. Would it be what the Bible would call the catching away, the harpazo, the rapture? Did an extinction level event happen, which then many people simultaneously did that high five, and then we landed here? I remember being on the Sagittarius arm. Now we are on the Orion spur. I remember a yellow sun, and I'm not talking about just at sun up and sun down. And now we have a white sun. The stars in the sky are changed. These are things that are plainly noticeable. But if there were some that went into these alleged bunkers, the elite and those of self-importance, well, that would mean that their consciousness would mainly stay in that realm, where our consciousness has moved over to this realm, and could make a lot more sense about some of the things that we've seen, like Hillary Clinton seeming like she was like glitching out during the election period, and all of the things that are coming out, down to the Pope changing, scripture, the Lord's Prayer, and all of these other very strange anomalies that are taking place, that in the old reality or old earth wouldn't have been heard of. It was balanced and running in balance. There's a scale there that we keep in balance. We can't have too good or too bad. 3D is about duality and about freedom of choice and sovereignty. This realm is also with sovereignty, freedom of choice, and equality. Where in the 3D realm, there was the us and them mentality. Where here, we're getting that inner understanding of the equality that is within each and every one of us. We all have that divine spark within us. So, with the dates that were shown on that article, which I dug hard and deep to be able to get to present to you, is an actual article. And with, like I said, the discreditation of NASA, many people working very hard to say this is a painting or is this a picture, so many different things. And the flat earth, round earth debate, some things that we shouldn't even be arguing about, where this is a time that look at it as a second chance. So I look at it with the amount of people that became aware at that time that something happened. Something major happened for so many people to, 2015, we had a huge influx of people talking about the Mandela effect, the Bible changes, the thinker statue, the spelling errors here. Even none of the rules seem to apply here that we learned in grade school, down to the I before E except after C. So this is not to promote fear in any way. If anything, this should bring peace to your heart, that there is so much more to us than these avatar bodies, and the awakening process that we are going through. So I'm, on the fence with that, as Shane from Unbiased and On the Fence would say. You know, I'm open to whatever probability or possibility could have been the catalyst that brought so many along on this awakening process. I'm just happy to see that it's not a lonely walk anymore, where there was very, very few of us. There wasn't anybody that I could really talk to, besides my husband, who has been with me by my side as all of this has, you know, opened up within me and I started operating and understanding them. So, you know, to now, there are all kinds of places in the past few years that have come online. Now, something else we need to think about is a lot of us, our channels kind of get buried and things like that because there is a high amount of the population that doesn't even know that this happened or that something could have possibly happened at all. But when I talk to a close family member who was a huge fan of Star Wars, and I knew that iconic line, and he had a shirt, he had just about everything, and to this day still collects everything Star Wars, but had a shirt that said, Luke, I'm your father, and he does not remember it that way. But now I want to say this close personal family member was a high ranking officer in the military at the time. He's now since retired, but he was a high ranking officer in the military at the time. Something to think about. So, did we have an Ella event? And when I showed that video, Did We Die in 2012? It was not to promote fear. It was to try to take away fear and to get an understanding of the possibility and probability with so many things being so different, and for the people who have come over to this. And it's almost like we're fractal beings, and the most dominant of our conscious will be in the one area, and then when we leave from that, then we will catch up with another part of us, and then we will become even that much more awake and aware of what the heck is going on. Now, that's not saying that death is not a part of life, because it is. Our life is like a blink of an eye when you consider that we are eternal beings. Our essence grows and keeps on growing and expanding with the goals that are in our heart. With me personally having so many, high fives and then coming back. Things have unlocked and come online, and I want to teach you how to do that without having to have a near-death experience or a horrible illness that could, you could possibly die multiple times in the process of going for the cure or things like that. So, there's so much going on in such a short amount of time, and the wave of people coming in to anybody that had any kind of awakening or awareness prior to when the flat earth, globe earth, and the Mandela effect and non-affected, that wave came in. Well, it's very noticeable to us. And I have to say, I am grateful for the company. I am grateful for people understanding that we have a say-so in creating our reality and taking the sovereignty and our abilities that we have within us, unlocking them, learning how to apply them into our everyday life to improve life for all mankind. Because when we get our house in order, which always needs to be done first, unlock everything within you, go after the gift you're the most passionate about, gain mastery on it. None of the gifts are off limits. You can gain mastery of all of them. Where we're at now, we're in a place that is quantum. Therefore, if you were allowed in the 3D realm to only carry one of those gifts, here you can have all of them operating within you simultaneously. I can say that from experience because I operate in multiple gifts. I just don't like to brag about them or to try to elevate myself above anyone else because I'm in this with you. And I also see the equality and divinity in each and every person, whether they acknowledge it or not. So, what do you guys think? There's a lot we just went through a mouthful of information, and none of this should create any fear for anyone. I don't know if you have noticed, I am holding my beautiful flowers from Biker Babe. She hand makes these. They're absolutely gorgeous, and I keep them close by. And also my tangerine crystal from Royal Forest. When you guys send me gifts, I treasure them because I can feel you through them. I can feel your heart. I can feel your essence. And I know that they were given with just such love. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful. So I hope that this has, opened your eyes, and also to the name change of the channel. I'm doing a poll now in the community section. Please feel free to go over there and put your vote in on what it is that you want to see. So that way I know what to present, what you're ready for, and so we can move forward with this. And as this is a public platform, I need to make sure that I am touching on several different levels of awareness at the same time. So sometimes it may seem like, okay, this may not be for you because you're beyond it, but still there's meat in there. There's always meat. Because even if somebody is newly awakened, they can go through this process so much quicker and with so much ease because of the help that we're able to give them from already been gone through it and understanding the gifts and abilities that we have within us. It's a matter of controlling ourselves. We don't want to go totally nuts with the gifts that we have. We don't want to hurt anybody. Do no harm. Respect each other's sovereignty, respect each other, love one another, and unconditional forgiveness, and always have gratitude in your heart. Now, I've lost my daughter, but she did not go to another realm like we did. She has moved on and is helping from the other side. And so she's been freed from the school, because I do call this a school because we're here to learn and develop and grow. But some of us stick around over here because what it would cause to another. And that is probably the most selfless thing that you can do, is to be here because of the heartbreak and heartache it would cause if you were to go, if you were to move on, or even if you're ready. Some of us are able to go back and forth. And that is my hope and desire that we all learn to do, is to be able to go back and forth. And remember, you have a direct connection with the Almighty, creator of all. And that is another part that I am hoping to be able to help you with, is to establish that connection where you're not needing to come to me for answers. You go straight to source yourself, and then you can come and share with me what you know so I can continue to grow, because we are all in this together. This was a long one, but it was very important to share, because we do have, as with everything, people that creep in and try and make it into what used to be called cults. They're now putting it under the guise of community, and it's ruining and tarnishing the very nature of the communities that I know that I'm involved with. As soon as one person puts themselves at the top and says to follow their teachings, and then they have a huge amount of following, and they target certain people, people with traumatic events or hardships, or dealing with illness, or the elderly, or the lonely and depressed. Well, red flags need to go up. And, I may start to reveal some of those as I've been doing some research, because it's more important for me to know, for you, it's more important to me for you to know how divine you are and how you're able to do all of these things. There should never be somebody else over you. Now, teaching somebody is one thing, but when you put your teachings out there and you haven't walked it, or if you're putting teachings out there that you do not walk yourself, well, we have a problem there. And if anybody wants praise or worship, or wants to be put on a higher pedestal or platform because of the gifts and abilities that they have activated within them, the one thing that I've realized is there's always somebody else that has more gifts and they are more knowledgeable on them than you are. So always be careful of people like that, because we can see right through you, and that is that. So I hope that this was eye-opening. I love you guys all so very, very much. Sorry it was so long. Apologize about my fumbling reading, but it's important that you guys all understand these things. And with the date on that Ellie event, just look at the dates, what they were talking about, and then look at scripture. And scripture actually does talk about, they called it wormwood, and that we would get hit. Something to think about. A lot of people are waiting for some of these prophecies to come to pass because they just don't quite understand or remember that we were already there. We just were not good enough to go into the bunkers. But let's be honest. Where would you rather be? Would you rather be in a world that's been destroyed, where the entire infrastructure has been just totally destroyed, and you're surrounded by people that don't want to clean their own house? So who's going to clean their house, since it's only them that got put into these underground bunkers? Think about it. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be here with you than there with them. But eventually they will come over here and they will be on the same path with us if that place even exists anymore. So they probably think we were raptured out if there was any Christians that actually made it through such an event. Food for thought. I love you guys all so very, very much. And this is it for this episode of Awake and Activate. And always share what you know and listen so we can grow. Peace. I'll talk to you soon.